I watched David deliver the news like he was reading a quarterly report. "We're restructuring the production division," he said with that MBA smile plastered across his face. "Found someone who can modernize our operations for 65% of your current compensation. Digital transformation, you understand, my name is Howard Brennan. I'm 48 years old. I've been working since I was 16, and I know what dedication looks like when someone actually values it." David had this way of talking where he'd drop buzzwords like they were gospel truth, then grin like his Wharton MBA made everything he said automatically brilliant. He did it now, that same condescending expression he used when he explained why my 18 years of manufacturing expertise was legacy thinking that needed upgrading. 18 years I'd given Brennan Manufacturing, 18 years building a production operation that moved $50 million worth of automotive components annually across the Midwest. When I started, our facility was a disaster, equipment breaking down constantly, no systematic maintenance schedules, quality control was a joke. Parts scattered everywhere like someone had thrown them from a helicopter. Customers threatening to drop us because shipments kept getting delayed or botched. The previous production manager had quit after 8 months, said the complexity was impossible to handle without proper systems. The facility was hemorrhaging money. Suppliers didn't trust us. Workers were demoralized. I took the job because I needed steady work. My wife Susan was finishing her nursing degree. Our kids David and Emily were still in school. And mortgages don't care about your career aspirations. Those first 2 years, I worked until 2 a.m. most nights. I learned every machine we operated, every supplier's delivery patterns, which equipment manufacturers were reliable, and which ones needed constant monitoring. I figured out that injection molding temperatures affected part tolerances in ways the manual never mentioned. Heat treatment cycles couldn't be rushed without compromising structural integrity. Some polymer batches required specific cooling periods that varied by ambient humidity levels. I built tracking systems that monitored everything in real time, created maintenance schedules that prevented breakdowns instead of just reacting to them, negotiated with suppliers until they trusted our operation again, redesigned workflow patterns so parts moved efficiently instead of sitting in bottlenecks. It took 4 years before everything ran smoothly. After that, it just worked. Parts flowed seamlessly from raw materials to finished products. Quality ratings stayed above 99.2%. Customers stopped complaining and started praising our consistency. Our on-time delivery rate went from 67% to 98.5%. Suppliers began using us as a reference for other potential clients. We became the operation they pointed to when explaining what good manufacturing looked like. My father-in-law, George Brennan, used to say I made complex manufacturing look effortless. He founded the company in 1985, built it from a 3-person machine shop into something respectable. When he brought me in, the place was struggling to survive. When David took over my responsibilities, it was running like a Swiss watch. Then David showed up. 2 years ago, fresh out of business school with 0 hands-on manufacturing experience, George gave him a management position because that's what grandfathers do. They want to see the family legacy continue. They believe blood relations guarantee competence. David never asked me how our systems worked, never wanted to understand the relationships I'd built with suppliers or why certain processes existed the way they did. He just wanted dashboards that made him look innovative when he reported to George. "Get me real-time analytics," he'd say. "I need KPIs that demonstrate operational excellence. Build me a presentation I can use with potential investors." I did it every time because that was my job. But David acted like the results happened automatically, like anyone could manage what I'd spent 18 years perfecting through trial and error. He'd tell people in meetings, our automation systems basically run themselves now, very streamlined operation. He'd smile that MBA smile while saying it. It wasn't streamlined, it was 18 years of expertise disguised as simplicity because I'd eliminated every inefficiency through hard-earned experience. David didn't see any of that. He saw a $95,000 salary he could cut by hiring some kid who knew Excel and thought manufacturing was just data entry. "We've already identified your replacement," he continued, still wearing that MBA smile. "Starts Monday. You have until end of day to document your processes and transition responsibilities." "Transition to who?" I asked. "You said he starts Monday. Today is Thursday." "Create a knowledge transfer document. Shouldn't take long since you've always emphasized how systematic everything is." I never said that. He said that, but arguing wouldn't change anything. David had already decided, probably weeks ago, This conversation was just corporate formality, a checkbox to tick before moving forward with his modernization plans. "Fine," I said. His smile flickered. He probably expected me to argue, maybe beg for another chance, plead my case about 18 years of service and institutional knowledge. I didn't give him that satisfaction. I walked back to my office. Not a big space, just enough room for a desk, some filing cabinets, and shelves full of equipment manuals, supplier contracts, maintenance logs. 18 years of information that couldn't be documented in an afternoon. But I tried. I pulled out my laptop and started typing. Equipment specifications, maintenance schedules, which suppliers needed 3-week lead times for specialized components, which ones consistently ran late and required buffer inventory, parts with critical temperature requirements, difficult customers who needed extra attention. 6 pages in, I realized how pointless this was. My replacement wouldn't understand any of this without context, without seeing the operation in real time, without making the inevitable mistakes and learning from them like I had. This wasn't information you could learn from a document. It was institutional knowledge built through experience, relationship by relationship, problem by problem. David walked by once around 3 p.m. "How's the documentation coming?" "It's coming," I said. He nodded and left. Nobody else acknowledged what was happening. Word travels fast in places like this, but people keep their heads down. Everyone needs their paycheck. Everyone's got bills. I understood that completely. The afternoon felt surreal. Normal production sounds continued around me. Machines humming, compressed air hissing, radio chatter between stations. The steady rhythm of hydraulic presses stamping out components. All the systems I'd built functioning perfectly while I sat there writing their obituary. Tommy from Quality Assurance stopped by my office around 4:30. We'd worked together for 12 years. I'd trained him personally on statistical process control, taught him how to read the data patterns that predicted problems before they happened. "Is it true?" he asked quietly. "Yeah," I said. "That's insane. You built this whole operation." "I know." Tommy shook his head. "What's going to happen to the Johnson Industries contract?" "That delivery's due Wednesday. You're the only one who knows the specifications. David will figure it out," I said. We both knew that wasn't true. Around 5:02, I finished writing what I could. I packed my personal items into a cardboard box. A coffee mug from our company picnic 3 years ago, a jacket I kept for cold warehouse walks, some family photos, a small cactus plant that somehow survived despite minimal office light, a paperweight Emily made me in middle school shop class. Not much to show for 18 years. That night, I sat in my truck in our driveway staring at our house. All the windows were lit. Susan would be grading papers at the kitchen table. Emily would be video chatting with college friends from her dorm room. David would probably be at his apartment, celebrating his successful modernization initiative with his MBA friends. I hadn't told anyone yet. The weight of it sat in my chest like indigestion. I walked into our kitchen and found Susan correcting nursing student assignments. She looked up, smiled, then noticed my expression. "What's wrong?" she asked. "I got fired today," I said. "No point sugarcoating it." The silence stretched for maybe 10 seconds. Susan set down her red pen. Then she stood up, walked over, and hugged me. Not saying anything, just holding on. "What happened?" she asked finally. David decided he could replace me with someone cheaper. Digital transformation, he called it. "That's insane," she said. "You built that whole operation. You've told me stories about it for years. You saved that company." "Yeah," I said. "I know. What about Emily's tuition?" Susan asked quietly. Our daughter was a sophomore at State. Between tuition and living expenses, we were looking at $25,000 next semester. My salary had been covering most of it. "We'll figure it out," I said. But I could see the calculations starting in her head. Her nursing salary was good, but my income had been our foundation for major expenses. "Do you have severance?" she asked. They didn't mention any. "I don't think this was planned properly through HR." "What does that mean?" "I'm not sure yet." That night, I lay awake staring at the ceiling. 22 years of marriage, and Susan knew better than to push for details when I was still processing, but I could feel her worry in the way she wasn't sleeping either. The house felt different. Smaller somehow? The next morning, I thought about George. He'd been running the company for 38 years. Built it from a 3-person machine shop into a 152-employee manufacturing operation. George and I had a relationship that went back to when I first started. He taught me everything about the business, treated me like the son he never had, brought me into family dinners, asked about my kids' school performances. I wondered if he knew what David had done. George was 78 years old, still came in every day, but didn't micromanage operations anymore. He trusted family to handle things properly. He'd been talking about succession planning, gradually transferring responsibilities to the next generation. I decided to call him. We usually talked once a week anyway, just checking in on family and business operations. Howard, George's voice was warm as always. How are things running? George, I said, I need to tell you something. David fired me yesterday. Silence. I could hear George breathing, background noise from his office. The sound of papers rustling. He what? George's voice had changed, gotten colder. Fired me. Said he found someone who could do my job for less money. Wants to modernize operations. I'm looking at the production schedule right now, George said. You're listed as supervisor for the Johnson Industries delivery next week. We've got 15,000 units due Wednesday. That's our biggest client. I know. I was planning to oversee it. Then David called me into the conference room and told me I was done. More silence then. Stay near your phone. He hung up. I sat in my kitchen holding the phone, looking around at our normal Friday morning routine. Susan was getting ready for her shift at the hospital. Everything looked the same, but nothing felt the same anymore. 25 minutes passed. My phone buzzed. Text from George. What's David's direct number? I sent it. Then I waited. 30 minutes passed. I tried not to imagine what was happening. George calling David. David realizing he'd made a catastrophic error without consulting the company founder. My phone rang. Unknown number. Hello, Howard. This is Jennifer from Human Resources. I'm calling about a termination that was processed yesterday under your employee number. Can you confirm you met with David yesterday afternoon? Yes. And he informed you of termination effective immediately? Yes. Did he provide severance documentation, exit procedures, or founder approval? No, he just told me to pack my things and write transition notes. I heard typing. Lots of typing, I see. And did he cite performance issues, disciplinary problems, or board authorization? He said they found someone cheaper. Digital transformation. More typing, longer this time. Okay? Thank you. Someone will contact you shortly. She hung up. I felt something then. Not hope exactly, but something had shifted. The ground felt less unstable. 2 hours later, David called. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity won. Dad? His voice sounded strained, like he was forcing the words. There's been a miscommunication. We need you back immediately. I said nothing. There was a procedural issue with HR. Your termination wasn't properly authorized through proper channels. We need you to return Monday morning. What happened to your digital transformation candidate? That fell through. Look, this was an administrative error. We value your expertise. You're critical to operations. Critical. He'd never used that word about me before. Never used any word that suggested I mattered beyond being a replaceable cost center. Grandpa needs the Johnson Industries delivery completed. David continued. You have all the specifications. Nobody else can manage the timeline. Nobody else because he'd fired the person who actually understood the operation. I'll think about it, I said. Dad, please, I need an answer now. We have contractual obligations. The delivery is essential for our Q4 numbers. You understand the stakes. I understood the stakes yesterday morning too. That didn't stop you. I made an error in judgment, David said. But we can fix this. Come back. We'll discuss compensation adjustment, additional responsibilities. I hung up. For the first time since yesterday morning, I smiled. That weekend, I told Susan everything about George's intervention, about David's panicked call back, about the satisfaction of watching someone realize they'd thrown away something valuable. What are you going to do? She asked. I'm not going back, I said. Not to work for someone who thought I was disposable, but the job search, she said. We'll figure it out. You always said I should value myself more. She nodded. I can pick up extra shifts. Emily can apply for financial aid. We'll manage. Sunday evening, Emily called from college. She'd heard about the situation from Susan. Dad, you should start your own company, she said. You know everything about manufacturing. You have all the contacts. That's not as simple as it sounds, honey. Maybe not. But you've told me 100 stories about fixing problems other people couldn't solve, about suppliers who trusted you more than they trusted the company. Maybe they'd trust you enough to work with you directly. Monday morning, David called me 7 times. I didn't answer. By noon, my phone was ringing constantly. Different departments, different shifts. all asking the same questions. Where were specific components stored? Which suppliers to contact for emergency orders? How to read the quality control reports I'd created. Around 1 p.m., Tommy from Quality Assurance called. "Howard, I know you're not here anymore, but we have a crisis. The Johnson Industries order is failing quality checks. The parts are coming out of spec, and nobody knows how to adjust the machine settings. David's replacement is completely lost. Check the temperature calibration," I said. "Probably running 15 degrees too hot. Ambient humidity is high today, so you need to compensate. Thank you. We've been troubleshooting for 4 hours." Tommy hung up. 30 minutes later, another call. Different problem. Supplier delivery came in wrong. Brake components they didn't order. Nobody knew who to contact for returns. I walked them through it. Then another call and another. David's voice got more desperate each time. "Please, everything's falling apart. The replacement quit after 2 days. Said the job was completely different than described." "What did you describe?" "Data entry. Basic production monitoring. I didn't realize it was this complex." "You made it look easy. Easy. There was that phrase again. You never asked how it worked. You just wanted results. I'm asking now, come back. Name your salary." I thought about it, going back, taking a raise, returning to something familiar. But I'd spent 18 years building systems for someone who never valued the expertise, who thought I was easily replaceable, who smiled while firing me. "No," I said. "Dad, what do you want me to say? I was wrong. I admit it. I screwed up. You were wrong about a lot of things. Come back, please. The whole operation is falling apart without you. Then you shouldn't have gotten rid of me." I hung up. The next 3 weeks were the strangest of my career. I'd spend mornings researching how to start a manufacturing business, afternoons fielding calls from my former workplace. The operation was collapsing in real time. Parts getting shipped to wrong customers. Critical components sitting in improper storage, degrading from temperature exposure. Major clients threatening to terminate contracts because deliveries were completely unreliable. I started being selective about which calls I answered. Enough help to prevent total disaster, not enough to save David from the consequences of his decision. George called once during that period. "You doing okay?" "Yeah. Planning my next move." "Good. I know the situation isn't ideal for operations, but David needs to understand what he threw away. What you built. Some people only learn through consequences. What if he can't figure it out? Then we'll make alternative arrangements. But that's not your concern anymore. You gave 18 years. You don't owe us anything else." He was right. I didn't. Starting my own company was harder than I'd expected. Not because of my qualifications, but because of timing. I needed equipment, facility space, initial capital. I wasn't going to jump into something half prepared. I had 3 serious options: lease space in an industrial park, buy used equipment from a facility closure, or partner with an established manufacturer who needed operations expertise. The partnership option worked out best. Jennifer Walsh owned a small automotive parts company, growing fast but struggling with production efficiency. She needed someone to build sustainable manufacturing systems. "What's your timeline?" she asked. "I need this done right," I said. "Not fast, but right. You'll have growing pains, equipment challenges, quality control issues. This isn't something you can automate away. It takes experience." Jennifer nodded. "That's exactly why we want you. We've seen what happens when companies think manufacturing is just software." During my 4th week of unemployment, Susan came home from a double shift at the hospital, exhausted but excited about overtime pay. We celebrated with takeout, the first time we'd done that since I was fired. "You seem different," she said over dinner, "more focused." "I feel different," I said. "Like I'm building something for myself instead of just maintaining someone else's business." That night, Jennifer called with a proposal. Director of Operations, $115,000 base salary, plus equity participation. Small team initially, but with budget to hire and build as needed. "When do you need an answer?" I asked. "Take your time. We want you to be sure." I was sure, but I took the weekend anyway. Discussed it with Susan and Emily. Everyone agreed it felt right. Monday morning, I called Jennifer back. "I'm in." "Excellent. When can you start?" 2 weeks. "Perfect. Welcome aboard, Howard." That same morning, David called one last time. I let it go to voicemail. Later, I listened to the message. His voice was hoarse, defeated. "Dad, I know you've probably moved on. Just wanted to say I'm sorry. I didn't understand what you did here. I thought it was just managing schedules and checking reports. I was wrong about everything. He paused. If you ever want to consult, we'll pay whatever you ask. I know I can't undo this, but maybe we can work something out. I deleted the message. My first day at Walsh Manufacturing felt different from Minute One. Jennifer met me personally, walked me through every department, introduced me to every team member. No rushed orientation, no dumping me at a desk with outdated manuals. What do you need to be successful here? She asked. Time, I said. Time to learn your products, your suppliers, your specific challenges. Building manufacturing systems isn't instant. I know, Jennifer said. That's exactly why we hired you. We need someone who understands this takes real expertise. The operation was manageable chaos when I started. Equipment scattered across inadequate space, no systematic organization, suppliers frustrated by inconsistent ordering. I'd seen this before. I knew how to fix it. I spent my first month learning every product line, every supplier relationship, every workflow bottleneck, taking notes, asking questions, building mental maps of how everything connected. Jennifer checked in weekly, not micromanaging, just present. How's it going? What obstacles can I remove? What resources do you need? That's what good management looked like. Someone who understood that helping employees succeed was how companies succeeded. Meanwhile, stories filtered back from Brennan Manufacturing through industry contacts and former colleagues. George had restructured David's responsibilities. He was now personally accountable for all production operations. No support staff, no transition period. Every decision ran through him. Every mistake fell on him. And there were plenty of mistakes. Within 6 months, I'd built Walsh Manufacturing into a precision operation. We'd acquired contracts with 3 major suppliers who'd previously worked with family businesses like Brennan Manufacturing. Not because I recruited them, but because they valued reliable partnerships. Jennifer was thrilled. You've brought in $12 million worth of new business, she said. That's incredible growth. I wasn't trying to steal anything, I said. They called me. I know that's what makes it so valuable. These aren't cold calls or sales pitches. These are established relationships choosing to follow you. That's the kind of reputation you can't buy. About a year after I started, Emily graduated and came to work for us. She wanted to learn manufacturing from the ground up. Watching her understand what I'd spent decades perfecting was deeply satisfying. She had natural instincts for process improvement, could spot inefficiencies I'd grown blind to. George called me around that time. You're acquiring our suppliers, he said. But he was laughing. They're making business decisions. I said, same as David did when he fired me. Fair point. How's the new place treating you? Much better. Good. You deserved better than what happened. He wasn't wrong. I'd been comfortable at Brennan Manufacturing. Not happy, not fulfilled, just comfortable. I probably would have stayed another 18 years building systems for people who didn't appreciate them. Getting fired had freed me. My family noticed the difference immediately, not just the better salary, though the extra $20,000 helped significantly. But my attitude, my energy level, you seem like yourself again, Susan said one evening. Like you're not fighting an uphill battle every day. She was right. I'd been carrying weight for years. The weight of being undervalued, of working harder to prove I deserved to stay, of making someone else look good while staying invisible myself. That weight was gone. About 2 years after I started, Jennifer called me into her office. We're expanding, opening a second facility in Ohio. I want you to oversee operations for both locations, build the Ohio system from the ground up. It was a promotion, more responsibility, more money, more recognition. I'm in, I said. You don't want to think about it. I've been thinking about it since I walked in here. This is exactly what I want to do. Building the Ohio facility system was deeply satisfying. Creating something from nothing, knowing it would work because I understood what made operations actually function. Looking back now, getting fired was the best thing that could have happened. Not because it was pleasant, but because it forced me to value myself properly. To build something that belonged to me, not just maintain something that belonged to someone else. David learned what I was worth the hard way. I learned it too, but I got to keep the lesson. Maybe you're reading this and thinking about your own situation. Maybe you're being undervalued, taken for granted, told your experience doesn't matter in today's economy. I understand that feeling. I lived it for years. Here's what I learned. Respect isn't something you can negotiate for. It's something you have to command. And sometimes the only way to command it is to walk away from people who refuse to give it. The expertise you've built over decades has value. Real value. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise, especially not someone who's never done what you do. The market will tell you what you're worth. Trust it more than you trust the people who want to keep you small.